There are 5 types of homes that you should never buy in North Carolina because if you ignore this video, your house could burn down, you could accidentally poison your family and not even know it, because in North Carolina, there's many things that can be hiding in the walls of older homes, even newer homes too, that the seller is not obligated to tell you about. So we're gonna break down each of these so you know exactly what to avoid, starting with number 1 is homes that will poison you. One of the most common materials that especially was used before the 1950s is known to cause cognitive damage, behavioral issues, brain damage, all sorts of problems, and it's prevalent in everything, in the paint, in the pipes, everywhere, and that is lead. So one of the things that you gotta make sure that you're avoiding is anything that has materials in it that are lead. So lead-based paint, lead pipes, and even surprisingly, galvanized pipes that may not actually have lead in the pipes. The galvanized coating, when it breaks down, can release lead into the water, so it's something you gotta be very careful of. One of the other ones that most people don't realize too is polybutylene. Polybutylene was very popular in the 60s, 70s, 80s because it was flexible, it was easy to run, and so it was more cost effective on labor for installation, but especially when it's on city water, the chlorine in the water will literally just break down the pipes and you'll end up getting leaks everywhere. You can completely total your house, and in many cases, homes that still have polybutylene, or we call it poly B or PB pipes, you might hear it referred to, is completely uninsurable in many, many cases. It's not as much of a problem, like it will have a longer lifespan if it's on a well because there's not that chlorine in it, but I still, like personally, I would never buy, and I won't let any of my clients buy anything that's got poly B or PB pipes in them. And that's something, again, that we have to make sure up front we're completely avoiding, because you can't just look at it and tell unless you know exactly what you're looking for. So how do you prevent getting a home that might be poisoning you? Well, a couple of different things. One is absolutely, if the home is older than the mid-90s, get the plumbing inspected by a qualified professional to identify what that plumbing type actually is. In many cases, there's a seller disclosure that your agent can access and review. Also, if your agent does pull the permits for you to make sure something was replumbed properly, just also know most agents are garbage. They're just out for a commission. They don't care about the relationship. They don't care about actually protecting you. And so please, please, please protect yourself by making sure that you're working with an excellent agent that has a great reputation and actually is on your behalf, making sure that you're staying protected, because honestly, most agents are just a waste of time and money. Number 2 is going to be houses that will burn to the ground. Actually, I'm in the middle of negotiations on a home that is wonderful, because even though it's an older home, everything's brand new in it because it almost completely burned to the ground. The owner, it was his primary residence, even though he's also an investor, he was living there. And while he was living there, the home caught fire because it has something, well, had something called knob and tube wiring. And if you're not familiar with that, it does still exist. It is the oldest form of electrical wiring, and it hasn't really been used since the 40s because houses kept bursting into flames. And so one of the biggest things you have to make sure is not in any home that you're looking at is knob and tube wiring. So while there's some really dangerous types of wire, one of the most dangerous types of wire is undersized wire. So especially on older construction standards, many times, like we just didn't have the same energy consumption on appliances and that sort of thing that we do today. Because think about it, they were just running knob and tube, they were just running around light bulbs, right? That was pretty much it. There wasn't a whole lot more that we were running off of it than light bulbs. And so you got to be super careful to make sure that everything has been updated or at least supplemented if you're going to be running any sort of appliances, because many times, even if it's newer wiring, older standards just didn't require the same size of wire, and so it's way more prone to overheating and starting a fire, even if the wire itself is up to current standards. Now, an equally terrifying and honestly more common type of wiring is something called BX wiring. And even describing this, you're gonna be like, that sounds like a terrible idea. And it was, and it is.
Knob and tubes, one of the biggest pitfalls is it's not grounded. It's not a grounded wire. So if there's some sort of a short, there's no way to really protect against it. It's so old that it overheats really easily and can cause fires. But BX is even more terrifying because even though it is usually grounded, it is wrapped in a metal sheathing. So it's wires wrapped in a metal sheathing, and the wires inside of that metal sheathing are wrapped with cloth. And so what happens when cloth gets really old? It breaks down. And what happens when live electrical wires lose the insulator between that and metal that then touches the inside of your house, touches your outlets, touches everything? Well, guess what? It lights up like a Christmas tree, and so does everything that metal is touching, including pipes, including all sorts of things. And so BX is terrifying for that reason as well. And there's no way to identify it, even if it looks like the outlets have been updated, because there's so many handymen out there that will update things, especially for investors over the years, because many investors just don't know any better. And then all of a sudden it looks like it's brand new, but it's not. It's just lipstick on a pig. It's just a Band-Aid on a massive wound. And there's no way to even identify it for sure unless you have a qualified, licensed electrician go out and properly inspect the property. Now, if you think, or if you got an uncle that thinks that they are qualified to inspect this, please just don't do it. Have a qualified electrician. I'm actually an engineer. I am an engineer. I designed electrical circuits. I'm qualified to design electrical and electronic circuits. And I don't even, because I know that I don't know what I'm talking about. So unless you have a friend that is a qualified, licensed electrician that can give a professional opinion, don't do it, because they have no liability and they don't know what they're talking about. Also, if the home has been rewired, your agent can pull permits to make sure that it was properly permitted and inspected and is up to code and was up to code throughout the entire process. And I'm going to keep harping on this, but most agents are not worth anything and genuinely don't even know what they're looking for and what the difference is between an open permit and a closed permit. So if you're working with somebody, please make sure that they're excellent, because most realtors don't even do 3 deals a year. They're part-time. 80% of them do like 3 deals a year. Have no idea what they're talking about. So please make sure you're working with somebody that is highly reviewed, is excellent, knows what they're talking about, and really, really cares about you. Number 3 is going to be houses that will fall down and crush you. And the first thing I got on this one is terrifying for a couple of reasons. So in the early mid to late 1800s, we'll call it, when dimensional lumber, so believe it or not, there weren't just 2x4s forever. Dimensional lumber was this revolutionary development where it standardized dimensions of lumber, not just trees that they were putting into log cabins, but dimensional lumber when sawmills started to rise in popularity and commonality. But one of the things that you have to remember is every generation, stands on the shoulders of the previous generation. And so when dimensional lumber first came about, they used many of the similar building techniques that were used prior to dimensional lumber. And so there's something called balloon framing, where they would take one giant tree, right? So if there is balloon framing, you got to make sure that 1, nothing has degraded that structure. 2, I would absolutely want it rewired. And 3, there are ways you can kind of insulate in there to prevent fire from spreading in the event of a fire. And 4, the best way to prevent a fire that wipes out your house and maybe puts you and your family at risk and could cause everything to collapse down on you in your sleep, the best way to avoid it? Don't buy a house with balloon framing. I know a lot of people say they don't build houses like they used to, and yes, that is correct that they don't. And that leads me to the next point under houses that will collapse on top of you. Nobody knows that prior to 1940s, and especially there were some areas where it's more common before that, but especially North Carolina, prior to 1940, cement was not this standardized thing that everybody had access to. It was not a normal thing. And so as a result, we just don't have concrete foundation footers, those things that are like, think about it like the feet under the house that make sure the whole thing doesn't sink or have one side of it collapse or start to sink, and then you have structural issues to the entire house. Yeah. No, they just put it on bricks on top of the dirt. So the entire perimeter wall, if it's on a crawl space, they have a perimeter wall in what's called a pier and beams layout, where it's a bunch of piers with then beams that run between them. Sure, it's brick, sure it's real brick, it's structural brick, but it's just sitting on dirt. And I have run into this before. And at the very minimum, you need to do some pretty costly alterations to the structural to make it safe to live. And especially because on those older homes, they oftentimes would have wider spans or distances between the lumber that was supporting on the floor joists. Many times the entire floor feels super bouncy. And even if it is safe, even if it is still safe, personally, it just sketches me out too much. And I would never want to get one of those houses. Now, when it comes to structural, there's a few things I always look for steering clear of. Number one is going to be any sort of large cracks in the foundation. If it's a 1/4 inch wide or bigger, like you can stick a quarter down in it, I would really steer clear of that. Other things would be any sort of settling. If you see tearing of the drywall or tearing of vinyl on the floor, or the tape, especially the tape up in the corners by the ceiling, or the drywall tape between the wall and the ceiling, if you see that tearing, generally that indicates there's some sort of severe settling issue. And personally, and for any of my clients, I would say steer clear. It's not worth it. Now, if you see evidence of any of that and you still want the house for some crazy reason, why? Please don't. It's not worth it. It's just not worth it. But absolutely have it inspected by a structural engineer. And if there were any structural augmentations that took place to help update that structure in the past, make sure that they pulled proper permits, it was inspected by the county, and the work was done properly, because it's going to cause you issues down the line. And two, again, you don't want your house to literally fall down on top of you. No one, no agent, no home inspector, nobody is qualified to inspect the structural soundness and integrity of a structure or home in general, except for a structural engineer. And make sure you get one that is qualified specifically to give an opinion on residential homes. Now, the fifth one is closest to my heart and actually has something to do with where I am right now, but we got to do number 4 first, which is homes that will drain your wallet and ruin your life. Old homes and homes that have a lot of old materials in them can drain your wallet and ruin your life for a few different reasons. So one, lead paint. We already talked about all the health hazards, but to remediate that, it's actually one of the easiest things, and it's nothing compared to some of the things I'm going to touch on here in a second. You can actually paint over it, but it still is there. It may be sealed up, but if you scrape it, if you ding it, if you disturb it, if you cut it, if you do anything that can cause dust, you can end up, again, inhaling lead. That's pretty terrifying. Now, again, I say it's one of the easiest to remediate because you can just seal it up by painting over it. But one that you can't do that with is asbestos. If you disturb asbestos in any way, the fibers will get into the air, you will inhale it, and it can be very, very dangerous to your health. It can give you all sorts of cancer. And to remediate asbestos, it is one of the most expensive and one of the most complicated materials to remediate or remove from a home. In fact, in college, I went to Purdue for engineering, boiler up. If you're repping black and gold, drop it down in the comments. But in college, my fraternity, the house was super old. It was a beautiful house. They put so much money into the house. And one of the things was a bathroom remodel that, I kid you not, it was a single bathroom. It had, I think, 2 toilets in it and one big, 2-head shower. To remodel that and remediate the asbestos that they found in there, one, there's way more than they thought that there was when they opened it up. And two, it took the entire summer and almost $240,000 worth of work to remediate it and then complete the project. And they had only budgeted $60,000 for this particular project, and it went way over budget by $180,000. So all that to say, it is not worth buying a house that has any sort of asbestos in it. Now, even if some of those old structural standards don't bother you, one of the things that would bother me that is structurally related is any home that's super old is going to be prone, particularly in North Carolina, to having had some sort of pest damage at some point, maybe not currently, maybe as many years ago, but pests, any sort of wood destroying insect can completely obliterate the structural integrity of wood members. And so any house that's old, you're gonna find at least some sort of either termite or post-boring beetle or some sort of wood destroying insect that had activity at some point, because we're humid here, you know, it's very warm, it's a very insect friendly climate. And so if you leave a giant pile of wood called a house out in the elements for 80 or 100 or over 100 years, guess what? There's gonna be some sort of insect activity at some point in a century. Now, even if that doesn't scare you, another thing that you absolutely should be mindful of is something that's near and dear to my heart, because my brother struggled with so many health issues as a result of this, especially when you're looking at older homes. You know, they didn't have plastic sheets for moisture barriers back in the late 1800s, early 1900s. You know, plastic's a very, very relatively new thing. And so moisture barriers, particularly in any sort of crawl space, is also a very new thing. And so mold issues can be super sneaky, cost my brother a ton of money, headache, and both literally and metaphorically headache, and also made him just feel terrible for years because there was a very, very sneaky mold issue in my parents' house growing up that they couldn't quite identify. And a lot of it had to do with old moisture that was very difficult to locate, because again, when something's been sitting around for 100 years, it can be kind of sneaky and kind of hard to find. Going along with that too, if it's an old house, there's big old trees that have gotten their roots into the structural, into the foundation, into those sewer lines. And so, you know, you can have a lot of issues that it's hard to see, hard to identify, that can cost you a ton of money down the line. Now, let's say it's not some big project. Let's say it's not a 100-year-old house. Let's say it's just a little bit of paint, a little bit of carpet, super light rehab. Let me tell you, there's no such thing. It always ends up being a way bigger project than you think. And so you should avoid, especially if it's your first home, and especially if you don't have extra money to budget, you should avoid any sort of big project, because those projects are really complicated once you get into them, and they're always more complicated than it seems by a lot. And also going along with that, simple things that might not be a problem but could be expensive, you should also avoid. So that means like new roof, new HVAC, new mechanicals, rewiring a house, replumbing a house, all those sort of things. Just steer clear. I don't care how good of a deal it seems like. Once you get into that project, it's going to cost way more time and money than you think, and it's going to end up being very likely a bad deal for you. So what to do about homes that will drain your wallet and ruin your life? 2 simple steps. Number 1, confirm the build year. The build year tells you so much about the materials in the home. 95 or newer, generally safe. I've never seen anything sketchy. Anything's possible. But if it's older than that, make sure that any work to remediate asbestos or lead paint or rewire the house, replumb the house, anything like that was properly permitted and done correctly. Your agent can pull the permits on that as well. And number 2 is, no matter what build year it is, have the home professionally inspected by a licensed home inspector who's going to be able to tell you the real of what's really in that home. And anything that doesn't match up with those permit records, then you can dig into and make sure you know exactly what you're getting and that it was correctly done. Now, any home can be a good deal with the right negotiation. Again, don't take on any big projects, but just for reference, on our average client this year, we've been able to get them between $16,000 and $24,000 in seller concessions. So especially if you're taking on any sort of a project, but just for closing costs and that sort of thing in general, make sure you're working with an excellent agent that can negotiate on your behalf and get results. Because again, many agents in this business are just part-timers that are not professionals. I do more in a month than many people will do in their entire careers as real estate agents. Number 5, homes that are a risky gamble. And this one is very personal to me, which is why I'm here actually, because it largely revolves around new construction. If you don't want to buy old, you probably want to buy new, right? Well, not so fast. The number 1 thing is, when you're buying new, you got to make sure you know what you're buying. Some builders are really sketchy about inspections, particularly pre-drywall inspections. And so you want to make sure if you're buying something, if you're spending $500,000 or more on a new home, that you know exactly what you're getting. And so general home inspections as well as a secondary pre-drywall. So before the drywall goes up, you know, all the mechanicals, everything that's inside of that, you make sure it all conforms to code and is best practice. If there are builders that make it really hard for you to know exactly what's going inside those walls, I would run. There's two particular builders in the region here where I operate in North Carolina that are terrible for a variety of different reasons, but one has, and I know this because I actually, one of my past clients was a GM for a plumbing company, and he said that the #1 source of their plumbing calls were leaks in homes that, you guessed it, were built by this one particular builder. The other is, there's one other separate particular builder that has so many structural issues. You'll see it on probably 1 in 5 of their homes 2-3 years after they're built. And it's not bad enough for it to be covered by warranty, but it will be as soon as it's out of the warranty period. And those two builders are not going to be disclosed in this video because I don't want to get the balls sued off of me. So I'm not going to say it in this video, but any client that has worked with me knows exactly who I am talking about, because I'm not going to let you buy something that's not going to be a great home for as many years to come as you like. Now, there are some builders that might have a little bit better quality, but they also don't care about their homeowners because they will sell to investors. They'll sell as much as 30 or 40% of a neighborhood to investors, and then it's all people that are renting and just don't care about their home as much as you do because they didn't spend $500,000 on a big, beautiful, brand new home like you did, right? And so it absolutely tanks your property values. But the biggest effect that it has on property values isn't what you might think. It's not actually the fact that it's a large renters population in that neighborhood. It's actually that many times these builders will sell at a discount to investors. And so as soon as they get out of whatever their non-sale clause says, usually it's like 2 years or so, 2-3 years, they will all dump their houses at the same time. It tanks your property values in the neighborhood, and it can take years, sometimes decades, to recover from this sneaky tactic that I've seen so many builders do just to move a few more homes to make up, falling a little bit short of their quarterly numbers. But probably the biggest thing that nobody talks about you need to know when it comes to new construction is not all areas are created equal. The building codes can vary even within the county by different municipalities and different cities. And so one of my favorite ones, just as an example, is Mount Holly. It's in Gaston County, and it's because, at least right now, they're requiring many different communities to be building with hardy plank or stone or some sort of really nice exterior. And you go west anywhere in Gastonia, just a little bit west in Gaston County, and there's not that requirement. And so just from an area perspective, some of the materials and requirements that are going into Mount Holly, Monroe's another one, and many other areas around different regions are just significantly better than the norm that you would find for the same price other places. So what can you do to make sure that you're getting a great new construction home? There's a few different specific things, one of which I've never shared anywhere in any video before, and it's probably the best golden nugget in this entire video. So the first thing I already mentioned is get a pre-drywall and a regular home inspection prior to close. Make sure that you verify and that your agent verifies all those items got crossed off before you sign on the dotted line. The home is yours, because in many cases, builders are not obligated to actually fix anything once you sign. So make sure all those items get crossed out. And two, and this is the big one, is go to the community Facebook group, or if the community is new, go to another one of the closed out communities that is 3 or 4 years old by the same builder in the same area, and see what the homeowners are saying in that next door, that community Facebook group about their homes and about the community. And you can get a better sense for what's really going on when you sign on the dotted line and live there for a few years. But probably the biggest mistake that I see people make in the new construction purchase process is trusting the sales agent who works for the builder, who's all smiles, to prioritize and represent their interests instead of trying to keep their job. It's kind of like walking on a tightrope across the Grand Canyon without a safety net. You can try it, but it probably won't end too well. Now, there's only one thing you remember from this entire video. don't set your expectations too high on the wrong things. If you get the great home, it's not going to be the biggest, the prettiest, the coolest, the most insane house, but it will be the most peaceful because it won't become a burden. Don't be scared. I want you to succeed. I'm rooting for you. If you buy the wrong house, it can crush you. I saw that happen to my parents growing up. I don't want that to happen to you. But if you buy the right home, it can be a blessing for the rest of your life. And if you're looking to work with an excellent realtor anywhere in North Carolina or South Carolina, my team and I would be thrilled to work with you. We don't tell you what to do. We don't try to make a decision for you. We advise and consult every step of the way and give you the information and the tools necessary to make a great decision. And if you're not quite sold on the Carolinas quite yet, you want all the dirt on North Carolina, go ahead and check out this video next.